Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Ministry Matters with Chris Stinnett. I am Chris Stinnett, and today we're going to start with a memory. When I first started preaching, there was no such thing as the internet, there was no such thing as email and websites, no social media, of course. There were no cell phones, so there was no texting. There were not very many personal computers around. There were a few, but the software for them was really basic. You could do some spreadsheet stuff and you could do some basic word processing, but it wasn't very good. And that's okay because there weren't any really color printers available either. And so there just wasn't very much you could do. That meant that church communication was almost entirely done by a church bulletin. You would produce a bulletin each week that would have prayer requests and news and information. And then on Sunday morning, you would hand those out at the door. And that's how the communication took place within the church. Now, fast forward 40 years, and certainly we've got all that stuff. We've got websites, we've got internet, we've got social media, we've got emails that can go out, we've got cell phones and text messaging and group texts and all kinds of wonderful things. Incredible software that virtually everybody has, and wonderful color printers that almost everybody has. And the big question then is, with all these methods of communication now, is there still a place for a church bulletin, a printed church bulletin? And I would say yes. Even with all the communication opportunities that we have, there is still a place for a printed church bulletin. There are many reasons for this. One important reason, and I think you'll understand this quickly, when visitors come to your congregation, they expect to be handed something. The bulletin is the perfect idea for that. You hand them a church bulletin. While that's taking place, you have ushers or greeters, however you want to style these guys, who are standing at the door and they're handing out these bulletins to individuals. And what this will do is it will ensure that they actually speak to every single person who comes through the door. If they don't have a bulletin to hand out, if they're there as greeters or they're there as ushers, they'll hold the door open. Often what happens, though, is they get caught talking to the same 3 or 4 or 5 friends of theirs who are coming in. They have news to share with each other in some way. And others walk in behind this conversation without being properly greeted. So, if an usher or a greeter has a church bulletin, they give that to each individual who comes in, and that way everybody has some conversation. That gives them a reason to speak to each person that's there. So, yes, I think there is a place for a church bulletin, but I have a lot to say about that. Since the bulletin is all about communication, it's about providing information for your congregation. It needs certain things. You have to include certain things within the bulletin. First of all, you need absolutely full contact info. You need the address of the church building. You need service times. You need the website information. You need the phone number for contacting the church. You need accurate service times. By the way, make sure that those are the correct service times. You need to know the names of the leadership people who are involved. It wouldn't hurt at all to include an order of worship within the body of the bulletin. Many of the visitors do not know what to expect when they walk into the church building. They don't know what a worship service looks like. And it would be handy for them to know what is happening next. And at the same time, you can provide the names of those who are participating in the worship service. Who is it that's leading the singing? Who is it that's leading a prayer? Who is it that's preaching? And so on. You could include within the bulletin any permitted prayer request. Now, it's important that you get permission to put those names in the bulletin first. And along with that, you could also do personal needs. If someone has a need for yard work or someone has a need for a car repair, something like that. Any of those permitted prayer requests or permitted personal needs could go into the bulletin and find willing helpers. You should take notice of any upcoming events within the congregation. If you've got a vacation Bible school or some other similar program, some kind of new thing coming up, people need to know that. You could also make them aware of upcoming items in neighboring congregations so that they could know what's happening elsewhere. It would be a great opportunity for the preacher or another leader within the congregation to include a devotional type article in the bulletin. I would counsel against doing the didactic teaching kinds of articles. People are much more inclined to read a devotional article. And here's the beauty of a printed bulletin. Once it's in print and distributed, people can leave that in places around the community, restaurants, laundromat, wherever, and others can pick that bulletin up and read a devotional article that would impress them and help them with that. One last thing that I think could be and should be included in a church bulletin is the recognition of accomplishments. If students win awards at school, if people are given a new promotion, if something wonderful has happened, a new baby, for example, these kinds of things ought to be included in the bulletin. We need to rejoice with those who rejoice. So there's a great opportunity for accomplishments to be added to the bulletin as well. Now, with all of that, there are certain things, important things to notice in this. Take notice of certain things. First of all, you must approach the bulletin with excellence. There has to be excellence in everything. That means there has to be quality writing that's done. There has to be quality proofreading. The person who does the writing is the worst person to do the proofreading because the person will see what he or she expects to see, and you need a disinterested proofreader to look at those things. The printing quality needs to be done very, very well. You have to have the page lined up properly and not have information wonky on the page, turned sideways, and so on. People need to be able to not be distracted by those things. When it comes to spelling names, make sure those names are spelled absolutely correctly. There simply is no excuse for not getting someone's name right. By all means, keep the bulletin current. Don't just keep mindlessly repeating the same information week after week. We don't need to know that Vacation Bible School at a neighboring congregation happened last month. We keep it current, so make the changes that are necessary and be sure that the information in the bulletin is up to date. When it comes to distribution, by all means, hand out the bulletin at the door, especially to visitors and people who are just rarely with you. Make sure that they get a bulletin in their hands as you greet them individually and personally. That's a wonderful thing to do. Should you include the bulletin in email and on your website? I would say absolutely yes. We still get bulletins from congregations that we had dealings with decades ago. And we love to see people's names and see what's happening within the congregation. So by all means, distribute the bulletin not only in person, but also on the website and by email. Last thing, please U.S. mail those bulletins to your members who are homebound. They are still a part of the congregation, and they're still a part of your ministry. And this whole concept of a printed church bulletin, it's all about the ministry of communication. And you and I both know that ministry matters. And as always, friends, like, subscribe, and share because ministry matters. And God bless you.